Hello and welcome to our session today on next generation motor protection presented by Sean and Stephen. Today we're going to look at some learning outcomes. So firstly, why upgrade or migrate? Then we'll look at the benefits of electronic overloads. We'll look at the CEP7-1 product overview. We'll cover off on some frequently asked questions. We'll look at resources, training, and then at the end do some questions and answers.
Hey Stephen, Sean here. Why would we upgrade or migrate?
Good question, Sean. So whilst the CEP7 overload relay has been a really valuable part of NHP's motor protection portfolio for over 18 years, the product's now obsolete from the vendor with limited stock remaining. So our vendor for this product is Sprecher & Shoe, and the different components that make up the CEP7 have become obsolete as well. So essentially the parts that make up the overload and the overload itself, they're all obsolete from vendor, and we have limited stock remaining on our shelves.
So Stephen, since the CEP7 has been made obsolete, what are we migrating to?
Yep, so we are going from CEP7 Generation 2 to CEP7 Generation 3. And CEP7 Generation 3 is also known as CEP7-1. So we are going from Gen 2 to Gen 3 for CEP7. And the CEP7-1 has a number of improvements. For example, it has enhanced features to better safeguard your motor investments, which includes increased accuracy and repeatability, a self-powered design with lower heat dissipation, and optional expansion capabilities. Now, there are benefits of choosing an electronic overload over a traditional thermal or bimetallic overload for a motor protection application. So, Sean, how about you run through what some of those benefits are?
Thanks, Stephen. Yes, a normal electronic overload can offer quicker phase loss detection in comparison to a bimetallic, which has a response time of about 45 seconds. The electronic will detect it in 3 seconds or less. The electronic overload also provides additional features such as ground fault, jam, and it can use a percentage of full load amps and the percentage of thermal capacity in its calculations. The other major difference is the adjustable trip classes. We'll cover that in more detail in further slides.
When discussing various overload trip classes, what are we actually talking about?
Thanks, Steve. So the overload trip class refers to the ability of the overload to protect the motor and trip within a certain period of time. So the amount of time that a motor can sustain its locked rotor current determines its trip class. So in this example here, we're using a reference current of 7.2 times the full load current. So how long can that motor sustain that 7.2 times full load current before it reaches its damage point? So a trip class 10A, for example, must trip within 2 to 10 seconds. A trip class 10 would have to trip between 4 and 10 seconds. A trip class 20 would have to trip between 6 and 20 seconds. And trip class 30 would have to trip somewhere between 9 and 30 seconds.
Correct trip class selection can be determined from the motor's maximum locked rotor current and maximum locked rotor time. This information can typically be found on the motor nameplate or from the manufacturer.
So Stephen, in regards to the CEP7-1, what models are available?
We have 2 models available. The basic model, the CEP7-1EE, and there's the advanced model, the CEP7-1EF.
And what current ranges do these overloads cover?
Both the basic and the advanced model cover the current range of 0.1 amp up to 100 amp. So with the product, the basic and the advanced model, there are a number of similarities and also a few differences. So firstly, Both versions support both single and three-phase operation in a single component. So there's no separate part number for a single-phase version. The standard part number, or the basic, or the advanced, they both support single-phase operation within the product itself. Another thing that's similar between both the basic and the advanced model is that they both have a direct mount design which mounts to CA7 contactors. Now, having said that, there are also pass-through versions available, which we'll have a look at later, but the main versions are direct mount design for CA7. In terms of trip classes, the CEP7-1 or the basic model, has trip class 10 and 20, and that is selectable via the dip switches on the front of the product, whereas the advanced model, the CEP7-1 has trip classes of 10, 15, 20, and 30, and the way that you select them is by a dial on the front of the product. In terms of reset, the basic model has manual reset only, whereas the advanced model has the choice of either manual or automatic reset. And the way that you select either manual or automatic reset is from a selectable dial on the front of the product. In terms of additional features, the advanced model has the ability to add expansion modules, as it has an expansion module port at the front of the product. And that allows for things such as the remote reset expansion module or a ground fault and jam expansion module. The other thing to consider is the basic model is ideal for conveyors, pumps, fans, and process, whereas the advanced model is more about usability, with its multiple trip class options, selectable reset modes, wide current range, and additional modules for enhanced protection. We're going to have a look at the operator interface of the CEP7-1 in a bit more detail. And whether you select the basic or the advanced model, it has a number of features and similar look and feel. So we have a reset button, a push to stop button, a push to test function, a trip status indicator, trip current selection dial. We also have control terminals, a normally open and a normally closed, signaling contacts. There's also the load terminations. Now, on the basic model, which is the one on the right, the CEP7-1 at the top, we have the selectable dip switches for class 10 and 20 trip class selection. Whereas if we had the advanced model, the CEP7-1 the product image on the left, we have a selectable dial, which is multifunction. It allows you to select the reset, either automatic or manual, as well as the trip class 10, 15, 20, or 30 from that selectable dial. In addition, the advanced model has the module port in the top left corner, and that's there for optional expansion modules. Let's have a look at some features and benefits of the new CEP7-1.
Thanks, Steve. The CEP7-1 EE is the basic version and has trip class options of 10 and 20 with manual reset only. The CEP7-1 EF has options of trip classes 10, 15, 20 or 30 with the option of manual or automatic reset. Both versions support wide range current adjustment to cover a wide range of motor applications, and both ranges support either single-phase or three-phase operation. There are a wide variety of accessories to add enhanced protection. These are the ground fault or jam module, only available in the enhanced version, or remote reset and or indication, with the basic version having a remote reset magnet and the enhanced version having a remote reset module and or remote indication. Both are available with an anti-tamper shield, and both have options for DIN rail or panel mounting, and there are options for external CT configurations.
Are there any other additional features and benefits of the new CEP7-1?
Thanks, Steve. The CEP7-1 uses a current measurement-based protection algorithm. It is electronic design and uses a thermal memory. It has phase loss protection, and it is self-powered and direct mount design for use with the CA7 contactors. So, Stephen, what mounting options are available for the CEP7-1?
Firstly, we have the direct mount to CA7 contactors, or the direct mount option. We can also do DIN rail / separate mount. And then we also have the pass-through models available as well.
So, Steve, you mentioned pass-through overloads. Could you tell me a bit more about them?
Yep. So with the pass-through overloads, which are the cat number CEP7-1EF_P, this is the pass-through which permits the separate mounting of the overload, and you can mount it either DIN rail or separate mount. And if you have a look at the bottom right-hand photo, you'll see that we've got a picture of the CEP7-1, and essentially the motor load side cables simply pass through a window in the overload relay body, and the internal current transformers monitor the current flow. So we have a pass-through window where you pass through the motor cables. If we have a look on the left-hand side of the screen, we've got a contactor on a DIN rail and then a CEP7-1 overload on a DIN rail. And you can see that from the load side of the contactor, the motor cables pass through the body of the CEP7-1 overload through that pass-through window.
So, Steve, what are the benefits of using a pass-through overload?
One of the big benefits is that there's no need for a panel mount adapter, which would be required if you wanted to do separate mount with a direct connect version. So no need for a panel mount adapter is one benefit. Another benefit from a wiring point of view, in terms of speed and time, is it eliminates 3 to 6 wire terminations. It's also designed for use with a CA8, CA7 or CA9 contactor. The pass-through overload relay easily replaces an outdated overload relay in an existing starter assembly. It provides the state-of-the-art accuracy and motor protection, and also the pass-through overloads are 1000-volt AC rated, so you could use them in mining applications as well. Let's have a look at migration options and application of the CEP7-1.
Okay, Steve, the CEP7-1 improves the application coverage with adjustable trip class 10 and 20 for even the basic CEP7-1 EE model. It contains the identical mounting footprint as the previous series CEP7 for direct mounting configurations with CA7 contactors, but note the CEP7-1 is not compatible with the previous Cat7N DOL starters. It offers equivalent overload performance, features and wiring as compared to the second generation CEP7, and the CEP7-1 offers optional accessory modules which can be front mounted to the CA7 contactors for ease of access and minimizing panel space.
We're now going to look at some frequently asked questions. So firstly, what's the difference between the EF and the EE models?
The CEP7-1 portfolio is divided into 2 offerings, a basic cat number CEP7-1EE and the advanced cat number CEP7-1EF version, both supporting single and 3-phase operation in a single component. The basic offering allows adjustable trip current and limited trip class selection. The advanced version offers the same adjustable trip current, a larger selection of trip classes, and the ability to connect additional accessory modules. Additional information can be found in the CEP7-1 tech data documentation from the NHP website. So Steve, what network communication options are available for the new CEP7-1?
There are no communication options available with the CEP7-1. If you require an overload relay with communication options such as Ethernet IP or DeviceNet, we do have other products available, and to find out more information, contact your local NHP sales representative.
So Stephen, is the CEP7-1 compatible with the CAT7N DOL starters?
The CEP7-1 is not compatible with the CAT7N DOLs. However, a new compatible enclosure is coming in 2022. In the interim, if you require an overload for use with the CAT7N DOL starters, please select from the Sprecher & Shoe CT7N thermal overload range. Now, Sean, do we have Type 2 coordination charts and information when using the CEP7-1 with the new 10-brake Pro molded case circuit breakers?
Yes, Steve. The CEP7-1 can be used for the 10-brake Pro range of molded case circuit breakers for Type 2 coordination. NHP has updated its Type 2 tables to include the CEP7-1 series, and if you require a copy of these tables, please contact your local NHP sales representative. So Steve, are the CEP7 second generation accessories compatible with the CEP7-1 third generation and vice versa?
Most of the second gen CEP7 accessories are not compatible with the third generation CEP7. There's a couple of exceptions to that, and that is the remote indication and display and the ground fault sensors can be used with either the second gen or the third gen CEP7. However, all the other accessories are not interchangeable between the series. So, in other words, the second generation accessories are for the second generation overload, and the third generation accessories are for the third generation overload. Will there be separate catalogue numbers for single phase and three-phase options for the CEP7-1?
No, both the basic and advanced versions of the CEP7-1 support single and three-phase operation in a single component. The CEP7-1 automatically senses the single-phase circuit protection applications, provided that all three poles are being wired in series. So Steve, what documentation have we got to assist with the migration?
Firstly, we have a comprehensive migration document with a cross-reference chart in there as well. So this document here on the screen is our migration document. It has a bit of an overview of the features of the product, and then we get into the component cross-reference. So it has the part number for the Gen 2 product, and it will give you the direct equivalent for the Gen 3 in it as well. That resource, along with other resources, are available on our website, and we have that listed on the screen at the moment. In addition to the migration guide, we also have a product brochure for the new CEP7-1. We also have an easy selection guide, which includes contactors and overloads and the CEP7-1. And then in addition to that, we have CAD drawings, dimension drawings, and installation instructions. And all of these resources on the screen are available on our website at the link shown.
So Steve, is there any training available?
Yep, we've got some new training modules that have recently been developed which incorporate the CEP7-1 overload. If you'd like a bit more information, please reach out to an NHP today or contact your local NHP sales representative. We're now going to answer some questions. so please feel free to type your questions into the window and we will respond to them now. Thanks everyone for joining in on our presentation today on the next generation motor protection. Hope that you've learned heaps and we'll catch you next time. Bye. Hi everybody, it's Stephen and Sean here. Thank you very much for joining our webinar today. We're just going to allow a bit of time now to answer any questions. So feel free to keep typing them in the Q&A window and both Sean and myself will get back to you on them. I've already seen a couple come through, so just keep them coming through and we'll answer that. Someone has asked, is there a Ethernet module coming for the CEP7-1? And I can confirm that there won't be at this stage. So if you do have a requirement for Ethernet communications, then the way to do that would be to go with a different product. For example, we have the Allen Bradley E300, which has the option of dual port Ethernet. But yeah, that's a more advanced product than going with the CEP7. So we've got a question that's come through. Can you please explain the reset options? So basically, with either version of the product, there's a manual reset, which there's a manual reset button on the overload itself that you can just press to reset. There's also a remote reset magnet, which connects on the front of the unit, which allows you to do a remote reset from, say, a push button on a door. So there's that. In the case of the advanced CEP7-1, so the 1EF, we can also do automatic reset. So the way that that works is the overload is monitoring the current and it got your setting on the dial. And so when it hits a certain point and trips, it needs to basically look at a cool down level, which it calculates before automatically resetting. Okay, another question. How early in 2022 are DOLs expected? That's a good question. So at this stage, we're looking at the first quarter of 2022 for that a new DOL that'll be compatible with the CEP7 to come out. So that's a good question from Lloyd. Another question that's come through. Yep, this is a good question. This has come from Patrick. So is there an option for a separately or side-mounted reset module with the new CEP7-1 series instead of the top-mounted option? Yes, there is. What we have, there's a separate part number and it's a little connection to mount the overload module on the side onto a DIN rail. So we do have something that's, it's a separate part number. It's a little kit. So you would buy the you'd buy the remote reset module and then you would also buy the side mount kit and they just go next to each other rather than top mounted. So yes, we do have something there. Okay, another question that's come through. Will there be any other communication connection planned for the future, for example, as the IO-Link or Modbus serial? Yes, so look, at this stage, there's no plans to have communications of any type. If there is, we'll certainly let you know, but at this stage, there isn't any intention to do that, but we do have other products with comms if you require that. Statistically, though, however, most customers that purchased the CEP7 Gen 2, most didn't need comms or purchase comms. So for most people, will be covered. But yeah, if you do have a requirement for communication connection, at this stage, you need to consider another product from our portfolio. That's a good question. And look, if there are any other questions in the last couple of minutes, please feel free to type them in. And we've still got a couple of minutes before we will finish up. Okay, we'll just allow another 30 seconds if you've got any final questions before we end this session for today. All right, well, I think we'll end it there. Thank you once again for everybody that has tuned in today. I hope that you've learned a lot about our new products and resources and support available. If you do have any further questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Sean, and we are very happy to help you out with anything there. I'm just going to sign it off now and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.